it's a very fast-moving change now where more and more companies are looking to really change the way they support their people, in particular, use more technology to support people in more remote locations, importantly, closer to where they live. So how we're developing is opening unprecedented numbers of new buildings, new centres near where people live. So so far this year, we've signed up over 600 buildings, which is about a 20% growth rate, much more than anything we've ever done before. Many of those are in the suburbs and in rural locations where people live and where they want to work. People don't necessarily want to work from home, but they absolutely do want to work close to home some of the time.
Let me just ask you, I guess, about the business model itself, because the thing that got WeWork is that they were entering into long-term leases with only short-term rentals to offset the other side. What do you do to manage between what you owe and what you're owed, essentially? How do you keep those running costs low?
Well, all of our growth, pretty much, 95% of it, 97% of it, is done in partnership with property owners and investors. So we don't actually take leases ourselves. So we operate these buildings on behalf of investors that already have buildings or buy buildings to put on the network. So effectively, a building owner or an investor is putting their building on our platform. And we do all the operation for them. Most building owners and investors are not equipped to operate this sort of highly operational business. So we do all that for them, and we take a fee for doing that. So almost all of our growth is carried out in that way. So there is a mismatch, a long-short mismatch, and we sidestep that all together by giving all the profit effectively to the investor.
Mark, I have to imagine that with so many companies moving their offices outside of city centers, their costs are going down with it, given the high rents that are typical of city center office space. Is that in fact true? Can you quantify the savings that companies are accumulating and what they're doing with these extra cost savings?
Oh, it's very interesting. Question, a very interesting subject, and there's lots being researched and written about this in universities around the world at the moment. So this is a major change in the way human beings are actually living their lives, because it's an important change in geography. But for companies, if I just start there, for companies, they are able to quite dramatically reduce costs. So, it depends how inefficient they are at the beginning. But a minimum saving would be about 50% of their current cost. But we've seen companies make an 80% saving, going for a more hybrid and more flexible arrangement. And look, the reason for that is not that rents are high in wherever they are, it's that they use space inefficiently. So they effectively have space available for people that don't use it. Our system allows companies to give people space on the days that they need it and not have it on the days that they don't. So it's highly efficient, and that's what leads to the savings. And this change is not necessarily a change that's taking place only in big cities where people go from expensive big cities to rural locations. It's actually happening also in rural locations, because there's a similar commuting problem there. A different one, but there is a commuting problem with companies that operate from more suburban or rural locations, having trouble getting their workers to work in a timely manner. So it's being adopted, universally, and this is happening not just in the UK, but pretty much everywhere in the world. So it's a very, very significant change to the real estate industry, a significant change to the way companies support their people around the world.